Expand your mind, don't let it wither and die. You'll find that it lifts your spirits high to the sky. So meditate.
So, I'm Eric Robichaud from Green Goddess Supply. I had spent, actually, I started very early in my childhood, and then all through my career. And I'm in my 50s now, so all through my 20s, 30s, 40s, I was a tech geek. Hardcore software engineer, systems engineer, my personal journey with cannabis, so to speak, didn't really start until I was well into my 30s. I had grown up in the through the 70s and then mostly through the 80s, but the late 70s and 80s and the whole war on drugs and Nixon's original war on drugs, and then Reagan came in 1980 and doubled down on all that. And, just say no and everything, right? It kills brain cells and all the stuff that we now know is disinformation and BS. But
I'll always remember the commercial with the egg in the frying pan forever.
Oh, yeah. Brain on drugs.
Yeah.
And the big pervasive lie back then was, you smoke weed, it kills brain cells, and you're gonna be deformed, reefer madness and all that, right? And so I was not ever anti-pot, but I was just like, I'm good. I just grew up with it. I'm like, all right, whatever, knock yourself out, good, but I'm all set. And then my personal journey was in my mid to later 30s. I really developed like terrible insomnia. Like it became such a problem that I went to the doctor about it, and he gave me we tried two different prescription pharmaceuticals for it. And they were different, but they both had just almost debilitating side effects. Like one was like your head just feels like a helium balloon detached in a fog. And like, I couldn't drive, you can't operate heavy equipment. I was like, I'm in a fog, and it just wouldn't go away. It wasn't like the first couple hours or the first day. It's like, it was just persistent. It wouldn't, and I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do this.
So the effect didn't wear off once you woke up in the mornings.
Oh, no. I'm like all day. Well, it was just like this, it was dangerous, like I couldn't drive. I was like, oh, whoa, I don't feel safe driving or anything. It was the side effects were terrible. And there's all kinds of side effects with people like, sleepwalking and all kinds of stuff. But for me, the whole thing, it was like this brain fog and like feeling disconnected. I couldn't focus. I couldn't work. I couldn't get anything done. I was like, it was awful. And I was like, I can't do this. So I went back to the doc after like a week or two, and I'm like, it's just not working. I can't do this. So we tried a different one, and then kind of different effects and stuff, but the same general gist of it. And so I just kind of gave up and resigned myself to, I got insomnia and it sucks and it is what it is. But like, you read the statistics and how like 60% of most Americans don't get good, restful sleep and blah, blah, blah. And it's pervasive and all stuff. Like, all right, well, it is what it is. Right. And then we had a party at my house. Like a 4th of July party or whatever. And later in the evening, as most people were gone, the last few stragglers hanging around, just kind of starting to filter out. One of my buddies sparks up a joint, passes it around. And when it gets to me, I'm like, no, I'm all good. And he looked at me and he was like, well, that shit'll knock you out. It was the Gorilla Glue, right? Heavy indica couch lock, And now this is me, never smoked before. So I have like this much tolerance, right? And I was like, really? All right, what the hell? Pass that back. And, this is one of those things. It's late at night after a party all day and the barbecue, the cookout, and then you've been drinking beers all day or whatever. So it's like, several beers and shots or whatever and all the stuff. And so by like 11, 12 o'clock at night, I'm like, this sounds like a good idea. Sure. What the hell? Give it to me. And I just remember waking up. I was sitting on this little love bench, like little couch type thing. We had like an in-ground pool or whatever, and I was just sitting there. And I remember just kind of like waking up and seeing my wife there just kind of shaking me. And I was like, not literally, but figuratively, you can just imagine kind of like, throw it on yourself, kind of thing. Right. And I'm like, and she's like, come on, go to bed. I'm like, oh, what time is it? She's like, it's like 2:30 in the morning. Everyone's gone. Just come on, that's just kind of letting you sleep it up, but you haven't woken up. So come on, waking you up now. Oh, okay. Kind of stumbled up to bed. Woke up the next day at like, 11 in the morning. Like, it was a Sunday, I'm like, I feel great. Like, whoa, what just happened? I just slept like 12 hours and there's like no hangover and I feel great. I'm like, what was that? You know, I want that. I want more of that. And that's when I started. So I got myself a little dugout, you know, with a one hitter, a grinder, you know. I didn't know what I was doing at the time, so I had crappy stuff. You know, I had the really crappy, like the Bob Marley grinder. It's like, you know, zinc chrome plated. So as you grind, like, all that chrome plating like comes off, like the paint's coming off, and you know, I was like this, and it gets rusty and shit. You know, like crap stuff. But I didn't know. It was just grab some basic, you know, gas station, you know, grinder or something, right? And but that's when I started smoking. It was just at night. You know, and I realized like I like even today now I'm a regular, you know, consumer. I'm in the business and the whole thing. Things have really changed. The old software geek is now in the cannabis industry. I used to be, you know, oh, Eric, the computer guy. You know, now I'm like, oh, Eric, the weed guy. And I'm like, well, I'm not really the weed guy. I'm more like the weed guy's cousin, maybe. You know? Yeah. But for me, like even today, I don't smoke during the day. Like for me, everyone's different and everyone has their regimens and whatever, and their systems and processes, and everyone's reaction to the plant is different. For me, you know, I got to focus. I got to like, I'm fine all day. It's for insomnia. So for me, I'm the midnight toker, right? Right. I'm like, it's bedtime, one hit. So I did the old one hitter thing for years. So I'm a straight up old school flower guy, one hitter at night. The work thing was completely unrelated. I didn't get into originally. I didn't get into this because like a lot of people, you know, they're growers and they've been doing the black market, you know, doing the home grow, the black market grow, whatever, and doing all this stuff for years during prohibition and everything else. And now the licensing that's legal and everyone's like, oh, I can get a license, I can do this. And they're all excited. Mine wasn't like that. It's not like I'm in the industry, like black market. Now I'm going to go legit. Right. For me, I was a software geek, and it actually spun out of a tech market. I ran an interactive agency for the last 10 years before Green Goddess. The software engineering kind of morphed into everything, went internet and all, and it kind of morphed into a digital interactive agency. So we had the software guys doing all, you know, web apps and database driven stuff and all the tech implementation. But then we had marketing, we have creative design and all that all under one roof. And so it was Green Goddess Supply actually came out of the marketing company almost accidentally. And we started selling product, and it wasn't even cannabis stuff at first, but we were selling on Amazon at the time. And it was part of a skunkworks project we were doing with one of our clients at the time. So none of this was intentional. And we were just selling random. We created an Amazon seller account as kind of like, not because we wanted to sell on Amazon, but it was just something we did for testing, like setting up like a demo playground because we were building technology stuff to interface with these seller accounts and stuff, and building technology for sellers. So we needed an account. So we had to, all right, so we got to sell something. So we were selling like rubber cockroaches and like kids toy novelties, you know, like slingshot rubber chickens and stuff, you know, things, cosmic pencils and all this weird, you know, just toys and novelties and stuff. And we tripped into, because we were looking for, all right, well, we got to sell some products, like what's got, you know, high demand, what's got, you know, what can we sell? And we tripped, and it's kind of fun. There's a whole other funny story. I don't know how much time you have on that, but there's a whole funny story behind that. But we ended up tripping into selling some pipes online, which you can't anymore. They shut all that off. But back in 2015, you could. Early, like late 2014, early 2015, you could sell pipes. And we were selling pipes, and we started selling more and more and more and more. And we started selling more of them. And all of a sudden one day, you know, we're like, hey, we're out of, you know, rubber chickens. Should we buy some more? And it's like, no, for every $1 I spend on rubber chickens, I make $1.50. For every $1 I spend on the pipes, I make $7. You know, it's like no, screw the rubber chicken. You know? Right. And so we started doing more and more and more pipes. And then all of a sudden, you know, and we were branding, a digital agency, a branding company. Yeah. So I always say, you know, if your hammer, every problem looks like a nail. You know, so it's like, we're a branding company, and like we got like 12, you know, pipes and all this stuff. We should create a brand around this. And there's reasons strategically for doing that on Amazon, creating a brand, putting a brand registry. You can it's one tool you can use to help fend off competitors and stuff and keep them out. So we're like, all right, let's create a brand around this. So we did it all in-house because we ran an agency. So we created Green Goddess Supply, and we created the brand and all that, and put a brand around it. And so it was all like that. And then what happened, it was always just like this little side skunkworks project, but it was taking off and it was growing and growing and growing. And like most things, you get to a point at one. In my original software game, I crossed this path, back in 1993, where I was building this little thing on the side, my software company on the side. I had a day job, and it was okay. This is getting bigger now, and now it's starting to demand some attention and resources. It's not just a little cute side thing. Like, is this just a fun hobby, or is this real? Are we going for it? And back in 1993, I went for it, and I left my day job and started. I've been working for myself since 93 in the software space. So it was like crossing the Rubicon again. That's right. But where all of a sudden it was like, now I've been doing this tech stuff for the last 25 or whatever years it had been at the time. And it's like, this thing is taken off. And it was like, yeah, that's what I want to do. And like it started accidentally. But then because it was starting to move, then it got our attention. And then I started doing the real, like the business analyst side of it, and started analyzing this market. And then I saw holes in the market. I saw opportunity, and I started getting really fired up for it. And if you fast forward to where we are today, I'm super passionate about the industry. I just love everything that we're doing. And that's what happened as I was building this up. Then it was like I was getting real burnt out on all the client services work and all that stuff. Right. I've been doing this stuff for like 25 years. And I'm like, all right, this is just really, really getting old. And this was the cannabis industry today reminds me of what excited me about the tech industry back in the late 80s.
Absolutely.
Okay. Where it's new, it's innovative. It's all, accidental empires and new entrepreneur like Bill Gates, like, some like pimply faced kid that no one's ever heard of, becomes the next, industry tycoon. Steve Jobs, these California garage startups that are just pioneering, figuring shit out and all that. And now it's like the same thing. I find this industry is maddening, drives me insane. There are times you just want to scream and throat punch someone, figuratively speaking. It's like, there's it's so dysfunctional. It's so disorganized. It's the Wild West. It's kind of an insane market, but is that I really enjoy and gravitate towards building and creating things. And I'm like that. I'm like this, been the serial entrepreneur, like building things up, and I sell it and then start another one, build it up and then sell it up and build them up and build them up and build them up. And I like building business, building things. And that's, I think, what drew me to the whole PC engine. It was all new and figuring shit out for the first time and being part of that ground floor, building this whole industry. And that's how I feel now. It's maddening. It's insane, the cannabis industry, but it also, therein lies a lot of opportunity. And what I've been doing is taking 25 years worth of experience in business in general, and then bringing it to this industry. Right. And like I said, we're really, now I'm like all fired up. It's like really passionate about this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, likewise, I think, I identified a few years ago that cannabis was going to be the new industry of, it seems like every 20 years or so, there's a new industry that sort of bubbles up and forms for a new generation to decide whether or not they want to jump in. And you're right. The last one was the tech boom. And cannabis has a lot of that excitement around it in the same way. And it's definitely a bit of, you've kind of got to be willing to ride the waves. Sometimes it's a smooth sailing and sometimes it's pretty rocky out there in the industry. But go ahead. I was going to say, before we get into that, I actually was curious, going all the way back to when you were dealing with insomnia, like what is typical for someone who suffers from insomnia? Like during that period, like what is your average amount of sleep or rest a night?
So for me, legit, I was getting 3 to 4 hours actual core sleep time.
Oh, wow.
But what it was is, you'd go to bed let's say, just to pick a random, go to bed at 11, get up at 7 kind of thing, right? And get like your 8 hours of sleep. Okay. Well, it might be go to bed at 11, toss and turn, and you can't get, and the next thing you know, it's 2, 3 in the morning. You're exhausted. You're like, what the, and then you finally fall asleep and you get a few hours, 3, 4 hours of sleep. And then, of course, it never fails. There's always something that then all of a sudden, maybe it's, I don't know, a garbage truck outside, or there's something, or all of a sudden we had dogs, like dog knocks something over and, breaks a bowl. Like there's something that wakes you up before your alarm goes off.
Right.
And then you're not getting back, like, wakes you up at like 5:30 or 6. And then you're like, wake up, what is that? Oh, okay. And then now you're just tossing and turning. You're not getting back to sleep. And now you're just kind of burning off, trying to get that rest, but exhausted. And you've only got about 3, 4 hours sleep. You're kind of in a fog. And now you just burn off that last hour trying to sleep, but it's in vain. And finally the alarm's going off. And you're like, all right, I guess I'm getting up. And then you just feel like you're like, just lethargic and tired and exhausted. Yeah. And you're like, hey, yay team, let's go,
It's interesting because I find that sleep and make sure that I get enough rest, because I think like a lot of people in today's society, 8 hours is what we strive for, but 8 hours is tough to get for most people. And I think a lot of us tend to run on 6 to 7 probably, or even less, maybe 5 to 7 for a lot of people. But I think like the first thing I always notice when I start to feel run down, like I'm going to get sick or something, is that, man, just increase your sleep, and it usually helps avert any real serious illness. It's like you just let yourself get ran down. And too often, I don't know of anything people really do if they go to the doctor besides be prescribed prescriptions. But as you mentioned, like, it always cracks me up when I see, and I don't understand why this is a whole nother conversation, or maybe it is part of this conversation, but with prescription drugs, like you see these long lists of side effects on them. And it's like, sometimes you're just like you said, it's like, maybe I would rather just deal with the problem than deal with these side effects or find another solution.
Yeah, exactly. May lead to, and then they start rattling off. It's like remember the old FedEx commercial where the guy who does this whole and the speed reader guy, and he's actually talking. This was a talent of his, but he like speed reads at like the lightning fast.
He used to do the Micro Machine commercials. If you remember Micro Machines, the little toy cars.
Yeah. And so it's these pharmaceutical commercials, like they just all of a sudden they rattle off for like, one of them is like for like 30 seconds rattling off, may lead to, increased stroke, heart attacks, incontinence, anal leakage, blah, blah, blah. You're like, wait a minute. Like, rashes and, whatever. And,
right.
And, partial paralysis and blah, blah, blah. So the side effects are it's one of those things like, well, the good news is we cured the cancer. The bad news is the patient died, from the drugs. It's like, right. I mean, sometimes the cure is worse than the original disease, So it's like there's all these side effects and stuff. And so it was bad enough for me that I made a conscious decision after working it through with my doctor, and over the course of about a month, it was a couple of weeks on the first one, then went back again, then another appointment, changed the prescription, a couple of weeks on the second one. And finally it was bad enough that I was like, I'd rather just suffer the original, problem than, because these solutions are worse.
Right.
And I'm not saying they don't work for everyone. I'm just saying that was my experience. That was my experience.
Sure. Absolutely.
And accidentally discovered that that weed is like amazing. Like you get the right strains, get those. I just call them like the heavy indicas, but it's not really an indica sativa thing, but for lack of a better.
One of my complaints about the way the industry is sort of, cultivars are sort of I won't say they're over crossbreeding, but through all the hybridization of all the strains, it's like, I feel like we're kind of losing that a little bit. The true heavy indicas or the true pure sativas, we're kind of losing those effective elements. If you go to the store now, it's so difficult. Most bud tenders can't even tell you. They're like, well, it says indica or sativa, and I'm like, well, but can you tell me what the lineage, what the genetics of that crossbreed is, or can you tell me anything about it?
Right. And with dispensaries and with the proliferation of dispensaries opening, and you're going from that, it's not just a concentrated group of some really, really knowledgeable bud tenders. Now, like we've gone from like 6 in Massachusetts to we've got several hundred now. We're going to have 400 by the end of this year, and eventually it'll be thousands, right? I mean, it's just like they're just exploding now. We get like 25, 30 every month now coming online, and so you're reaching deeper and deeper into that. I'll say the talent pool, so to speak. So you're getting more and more just like warm body. And I'm not trying to downplay the industry, but it's just a fact of like training and all
Expansion.
that stuff. You're getting people who are, getting hired that are not necessarily, been in the industry and know everything inside out. And, they're new to the industry and they're just learning all this stuff. So it's different, and there's a whole push, depending on like, I know like, Kristen Yoder has her t-shirts, it says sativa and indica is lazy marketing. And she's correct. Because it's not, it's way deeper than that. You can have indicas that are very uplifting and, have that normal like sativa, and you can have sativas that can knock you out, because it's really a lot, it goes a lot deeper than that. So the entire terpene profile, the whole cannabinoid profile, the terpene profile. And like you said, everything is pretty much, everything's a freaking hybrid these days. I mean, there really aren't, there's nobody growing, pure land race. I shouldn't say nobody, but it's just not a thing.
So rare. I try to look for the land races because I do like the pure. I feel like the industry has kind of went toward, unfortunately, towards the trends of marketing, and it's looking for just like with the music industry. Well, this is the hot song for this quarter. Now we need a new hot song for the new quarter. So it's the same thing. They're like, well, strawberry banana was hot this week. Now we need blue raspberry, is going to be the new strain this week. And it's like, instead of just growing really great, Durban Poison or really great Afghani or something that's just you become really good at those hardcore, strains that kind of sprang all the other strains, so to speak. Right. So that's true. And there is a consumerism. I mean, the reality is it is a business too. So you can't just say, you can't be totally purist. Like I do, like growers and stuff I talk to in the industry, like, oh, F that man, corporate, interests and the marketing. But it is becoming an industry. And when it becomes an industry, you got to be able to boil this stuff down and mass market it to the masses, where they don't have a PhD in botany and know all the, cannabinoid profiles and all stuff. They just they walk in and so you got to kind of simplify it, dumb it down, that kind of thing. So I don't, should we be dumbing it down though? I mean, and I guess because I'm one of I sort of am a traditionalist in some ways, but I also recognize the business aspect of it. And I feel like there has to be a way to find a happy medium between the existing old school culture of cannabis and the new generation of a lot of people who, as you mentioned earlier, aren't from the culture, aren't from the industry, from the legacy industry. They're from corporate world, they're lawyers, they're, new kids maybe that are fresh out of school even. And like finding a way to mesh that. And I think education is a big part of that, which is something that I've been overall pretty disappointed to see, like there's not a real effort to do more on an educational level of educating the public about it. Even out here in California, it's a little more advanced of a market as far as maturity, but in the same sense, we're still, we're fighting vape bans. The health department up north in one of the up north counties is trying to implement vape bans, and they start out focusing on tobacco and then they try and include cannabis with it. And, it's the same old school, as you just mentioned, kind of talking points and rhetoric that we grew up on with the war on drugs.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that too. That's still a big problem. problem. And Congress has done it. I mean, we've got just in the industry, we've gotten hammered left and right. I mean, vape bans out in Massachusetts, to a state level in Massachusetts. And they put on a ban. It was the black. I don't know if you know it if you've seen it in the headlines and stuff, but about a year and a half ago, the end of 2019 or 20. I think it was end of 2019 into 2020, just before the pandemic hit. Yeah, that's what it was. So whatever that was, 2 years ago, they put in a vape ban because there was tainted cartridges, and it was from the black market. They were putting the vitamin E oil, as a
vitamin E acetate.
And so they but it was from the illicit black market. So the governor of Massachusetts just put an immediate halt on a vape ban on everything, instantly and everything, which immediately closed every vape shop. They just closed, and most of them never reopened. And then even the smoke shops and head shops, where vaping stuff would be only 10 or 20% of their sales, but that vape ban caused an 80% plunge in revenue, because even though the vaping stuff might have only been 10% of their revenue, let's say I come into the store to buy some, e-liquid or something, and it's like $10. But then while I'm there, I'm like, oh, let me grab that bong, for $120, right? So it stopped the foot traffic coming in, which stops all the incidental sales and all the, they're just not coming into the store anymore. So banning that 10 or 20% of the market actually caused an 80%, and a bunch of the head shops went out of business. Never to reopen again, And so for us, we're in the insulating market. We do grinders and rolling trays and all these kind, and pipes and all, a higher quality smoking accessory. And we sell to the vape shops, we sell to the smoke shops, and our customers are all closing the doors and going out of business. So now it's impacting my sales. And after 4 months,
are you allowed to sell paraphernalia in the dispensaries there in Massachusetts? Out of curiosity, okay.
Yes. Yep. And so it destroyed the market. And it was really a knee-jerk reaction that had the exact opposite effect of what was intended. And that is that
often the case.
All right, let's shut everything down because, they're like, people got sick, and I think someone there were actually a couple of deaths, a couple of people died, the jelly lung stuff or whatever. So all right, shut everything down. It's a health crisis or whatever. But what happened, what the problem was, and everybody in the industry knew this. We all knew. We're like, wait a second. No, this is from the black market where people are just cooking shit in the basement and you have no idea what's in it or whatever. The stuff selling in dispensaries and things like that stuff's all lab tested. That's all so you shut down the legit industry to drive more people back to the black market where the actual problem was originally.
Yes.
It's like, it's exactly the opposite. It's kind of like telling a little kid, you don't want to eat too much candy, you're going to get a stomach ache. So here, have some more ice cream and have some more chocolate. Like what? No, yeah. It's exactly the opposite.
It's an irrational.
It just destroyed everything. After 4 months, they said, okay, they figured it all out and everything. They're like, all right, never mind. Vape ban is lifted.
It's too late.
Okay, great. However, probably 30% of my customers were closed and never to reopen again. You just put all these little guys out, and they're all little independents. They can't afford it, whatever. So all these little guys who had his whole life savings in this little shop, whatever, he just lost it all. He lost everything, had to file bankruptcy, whatever. We just screwed all these people over. So now we're hobbled. And then we finally, I think it was February of 20, the vape ban's lifted. Through February, things start to recover, okay, let's get going again. And then March, we had the COVID lockdowns and everything, all the stores are shut again. And it was like, oh my God. And then a whole other wave of them just couldn't survive that. And can't pay salaries. You can't keep paying rent if the store's not open and you're not selling anything. And a whole new wave of closures. It's like, oh my God. And so then we kind of get through that. And by 2021 or the end of 20, we're kind of getting through that. Stores are starting to reopen. We're trying to get things going again. And then Trump signed off on the PACT Act, which makes it illegal to mail any vaping stuff. And what they do is, this is all because, teenagers with the jewel pods and the flavored nicotines and all that stuff. I get that. That shit's addictive. And I don't want 14-year-olds smoking, jewel pods either. But what Congress has done in their infinite wisdom is they took all the tobacco legislation And they changed the definition. One of the bills they put through just changed the definition of tobacco products to include everything related to cannabis and all that stuff. So now everything, all the regulations. So now you have, like, we had a vape battery that we sold. We had to put a warning on there that said, like, because the tobacco, we had to put like, this product contains nicotine. It's a complete lie. No, it does not. But the government,
it's a battery.
It's a battery. It's literally a battery. It's hardware. There's no nicotine in it. And it's not even meant to vape nicotine anyway. Okay. Right. It has nothing to do with it. It's for CBD oils, right? That's what we were selling them at the time. But, CBD vapes and stuff, vape carts. And it was like, it's a CBD vape vapor. It's a battery. But now we have like, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine can be addictive. And blah, blah. There's literally, we're not in the nicotine. We're not in the tobacco business. There's not one single nicotine product that we sell.
Yeah. It's interesting because it's a conversation we're having out here now, in California. Is there's some legislation being proposed, and it's that conversation about distancing ourselves as an industry from the tobacco conversation. And I think we're going to do well on one of the bills. But as you just mentioned, the labeling issue, right now we're facing a legislation that's going to require basically about a third to a half of packaging would be covered in all these warning labels. And it's like, what is really the point of this? It's just, this is why California has the reputation of overregulation, obviously. But I don't know. It's very frustrating that it hasn't progressed, because honestly, the conversation really starts to come down. Absolutely not when related to tobacco, but certainly with cannabis. When it comes to vaping in particular, I'm with you. I'm more of a flower guy myself. I'm not a big vapor, but I recognize that vaping is one of the more accurate ways you could dose. And for somebody that is using cannabis for some sort of a medicinal or a wellness aspect to their lifestyle, it's the most accurate way for them to dose. And so from that perspective, it's a safe access aspect to me. And as you mentioned, I have this conversation with so many city officials, it's a conversation we've just got to continue to have, that they understand that being more restrictive on the legal market, where, as you said, all the products are being tested, they're being regulated before they hit the consumer. In fact, we are the most stringently tested products on the of any market. The food you buy in the grocery store, I don't think people realize, has more pesticides and stuff on it because it has laxer testing requirements than cannabis products do. And I just don't think people even realize that sometimes.
Absolutely. So it's these issues, decoupling it from tobacco, like just changing the definition of tobacco product to include just automatically grandfathering everything cannabis related is terrible. That's like, it's a completely different industry.
Well, it's counterintuitive as to what they've said or at least I will say what the Democratic Party has been saying now that they're in power. These kind of bills are in place, and yet they don't really move forward with legislation. I know we've just passed the MORE Act for the 6th time or 7th time, but whether it's going to, I'm still doubtful anything's going to happen with it. I'm
so pessimistic. I'm hoping for the best. I think I'm like everybody, hoping for the best, but so pessimistic. It's not going anywhere. And it's awful. It's awful. It's politics. I think it's petty politics. We have 38 or 39 states have some form of retail, like medical or
medicinal or rec. Yeah.
Or rec, like 38 out of the 50, do the math. What is it? Like 75% now of the states have cannabis programs. And it's basically hovering right around 70% of just the population all supports it. It is a bipartisan issue. It's not that, it's all the Democrats or all the Republicans. It's a bipartisan issue. Everybody just agrees. So if 3/4 of the states all have cannabis programs, 70% of the population are all in support, what's the problem? And the problem is, it comes down to two things. It comes down to a big underlying thing is there's a lot of politics behind it. There's a lot of the well, we're not the party in power, so we're not going to give you a win.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, you're gonna hurt, you're gonna damage the whole country because you don't want to give the other guy a win, kind of shit.
Although I would argue that if the Democrats don't figure a way to get this through soon, I mean, I'm anticipating that the midterms are not going to go well for Democrats. And I mean, it could set up the Republicans to start to take over this issue and own it and pass something and become the champions of this cause. As ironic as that would be.
Right. And right. Very ironic. And the thing is that I don't know that would happen. At the end of the day, I just want it passed. So I don't care who does it. Who takes credit. I don't care. Just get it done. Right. But I don't know that I see that happening either. It's, I think right now it is a wedge issue. It is an issue that strategically I can see the GOP bloc saying, why give them a win? Yeah, because you're saying, just like you said, don't give them a win. Then the Democratic base is all pissed that they didn't get it done, and it's going to hurt them in the midterm. So like, yeah, well then why pass it? Let's hurt them. Let's. It's all politics. It's not what's right for the country and what the constituents want. It's just because of political jockeying for who's going to have power. Okay, There's all that aspect of it. The other aspect of it is those who are against tend to be like the deep southern red states, like in Alabama and Mississippi and
Tennessee.
Those tend to be Republican, and they have Republican senators, and they tend to be. If you look at the demographic breakdown, and this is the other issue. The first issue is we don't want to give them a win in the politics side of it. The other issue is that there's a demographic breakdown. There's like, I don't even remember the number exactly, so don't quote me on this, but 80 or 90% support amongst like 18 to 30-year-olds, right? Then that sort of like 70% of the like 30 to 55. But as you get older, the older crowd has less and less and less. And people like 70 and up have like 11% support. They're mostly anti-pot. Okay.
Sure.
What is the average age of our senators?
Absolutely. We've got a representation problem.
The problem is that the guys that are actually casting the votes are all anti-pot. They're all in their 70s and are anti-pot, and a lot of it, especially on the Republican side, a lot of the more conservative southern states and all that stuff, and they're just not going to vote for it. But that's not what the people want or what the states want. It's just the demographic of the guy who's voting is like, well, I'm anti-pot. I'm not doing it. So I don't think it's going to go that, if it was a simple majority, it would be done. Right. It would absolutely be done. We would have all probably, I don't know, most of, maybe give or take the random one, but most of the Democrats would vote for it, and we get a handful of Republicans. But I don't know that's going to pass the 60.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. Obviously, the Republicans are looking at it, I think, more of a business perspective. I think Democrats are trying to look at it more from a social perspective. And I don't know whether they're going to come in, or if they ever will come into alignment on it. I know a lot of talk out here is really around banking and safe banking access for the industry, and the feeling that that's really when, when all the alignments have been made with the big corporations that have the ability to come in both for the political leadership to make the alignments with the corporations that have the ability to come in and just sort of buy up everybody that's trying to jockey for position for market share in the industry now. I think that's when you'll see safe banking, and at the same time, I think when banking goes through is when that's going to happen, is when we're going to get at least decriminalization and probably legalization at a federal level. But I think it'll be very, I don't know. I think it'll be an interesting conversation because they have very different agendas from what I understand from the two different sides on how they want to put that through.
Yeah, and honestly, I see both sides. I get it. There's the one side, there is a lot of Republican pushback on the social, all of the expungement and social equity issues and stuff. There's a lot of pushback on that. They're willing to pass banking.
Right.
And then you get the progressives that say, for me in the industry, I'm like, just give us the banking. It is a daily grind. It's a problem. It's a freaking daily problem. And it It just give us the banking. You know,
they expect to pay. They expect us to pay a lot of taxes. The least they could do is help facilitate that.
Right, exactly. And it's just so difficult. You keep having merchant accounts canceled, bank accounts shut down, and all this stuff for no good reason. Okay. So just give us the banking would be just so huge to let us just operate a normal business in a normal way. Right. But I do understand the progressive point is if you give banking is that big, that's the big nugget, right? That's the big carrot. And if you give the banking and you just sign off on banking, then it's like, then the whole industry is like, we're good. The rest is all nice to have, but we're good. Now we're moving forward. And then they'll never get the other stuff through.
Right.
So they have to like kind of solder them together and get them through as one package. And I understand both approaches. I'm kind of in the middle where I'm like, well, every day I have to go to work and I have to run a business. I got to pay my employees. I got to I need the banking. I need this stuff done, you know? But on the other hand, the other things are important and I'm not discounting that. So I'm kind of in the middle on the whole thing. You know, it's kind of like, guys, you know, and I guess maybe it's that whole cannabis hippie thing. It's like, why can't we just get along, you know?
Well, it's a problem that I think in general society, certainly our politicians have in the sense that it is very hard for people to come together and find middle ground, even though that's really where all the progress really gets made. I mean, you know, certainly, as you said, the banking is an important part of it. I see that side of it. It needs to happen. It only makes sense for it to happen. At the same time, I think, you know, both sides could give a little bit, you know, and find some ground in the middle, like you said.
Americans are in the middle.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Like you said, expungements. I can't think of many Americans, honestly. I mean, I'm sure there are some out there, and it's probably 25, 30%, but I think the majority would be in favor of expungements. I think it is kind of crazy to have people sitting in jail for decades for, you know, petty, you know, possession charges of cannabis. At the same time, I don't ever see the Republicans getting on board with as some of the more extreme social equity requirements that are being imposed by some markets. I don't ever see them adopting that on a national scale. And so I think they have to find a way to come together and meet in the middle somewhere.
I agree. And most Americans are in the middle. Most Americans, because I follow politics. I'm very personally interested in, and following politics and what's going on and all that stuff. And you know, most Americans are not as divided on issues as it seems. We have the parties have gone polar opposites. Most Americans are in the middle.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, what's really funny is I don't think there's a single person alive that I've ever talked to who has not said these words out of their mouth. Well, you know, I'm fiscally conservative. But I'm more socially liberal. So
many people.
I hear that from everybody. I'm like, all right, that's the very definition of every person in the country. Okay. I'm like, duh, no. Who's like, oh no, let's just spend money and go into debt. No, everyone says that. Okay.
Well, there are some people that are like, you know, true Keynesianist believers would say that it doesn't matter. We should just print whatever we want and spend as much as we want. It's all imaginary. I tend to think that does matter.
It does matter. But you know, I'm just saying that like anecdotally, talk to your friends and family and all that stuff. And most people, they all say this, but if they're Democrats, they're Republican, the same words come out of their mouth.
Yeah.
You know, but it's more of the problem with politics is the business side of politics, where it's like, well, we got to gain power so that we can control this, so we can do that. We got to so then it becomes this jockeying of positions, not what people really want. And that's a big issue. The other big issue that we have to solve in this industry, there's many. We talked about the marketing, you know, there's the business sides, the legalization. There's the marketing side of the whole indica sativa. 100%. We need a better way of and I'm at a loss. I don't know that I know the answer off the top of my head. I've heard, when I say everybody, I've heard lots of people in the industry, people in the know, all acknowledge this issue and problem. I've never heard one actual solution proposed though. Nobody's got a good solution for it. But then the other issue, that's a big, huge issue is home grow. We've got to, it's like we've got to push back and support home grow, because there's absolutely, what's happens is you get the big money, the big public companies, your huge MSOs worth billions, billions in market cap, are all, they'll lobby the crap out of killing home grow because it's, I see it as corporate greed. And the reality, what I keep espousing is that it's short-sighted, and it's driven by greed and not reality. Okay. Think about the food industry. Okay.
You can't grow tomatoes at home.
Right. You can grow tomatoes, cucumbers, you can grow all your stuff. And the fact that I have a little victory garden going, I got some tomatoes and cucumbers. You think I'm never going to Whole Foods again?
Right.
Okay. The flip side of that is also, they opened a new, TGI Fridays opened. I don't know if you have those in California, but
I'm familiar.
Or whatever. Some new restaurant opens in town. Oh my God, Whole Foods is going out of business now. Restaurants did not put grocery stores out of business, or the farmers market out of business. The farmers markets are not putting grocery stores out of business, and the grocery stores are not putting restaurants out of business.
Right.
Every single American, have you cooked a meal at home in the last month? Of course. Have you gone out to a restaurant in the last month? Of course. Okay. It's all part of the market. And the reality is a good 15% of the market's home growing already. Look at all the hydro stores in every street corner, and people have tents and whatever. And obviously we make home grow solutions with the armoire. Home grow, it's already here.
Yeah.
Okay. It's already here, but you have the corporate greed trying to write in into bills and stuff on state by state basis, trying to get rid of the home grow provisions. And it's taken activists having to stand up and say, no, wait a second, you can't do that. You have retirees, baby boomers, we're in that home grow market, very big. We started off selling all the ancillary products and the grinders and the rolling trays, making higher quality accessories. But then we invented our own home grow solution. And so now our whole product line, it's cultivation right through to consumption. We have everything. So you can grow it, then store it, roll it, chop it, grind it, smoke it, end to end whole life cycle. And so that's near and dear to our hearts, and we're very passionate about it. And it takes these activists saying, wait a second, we know we're in the market. 95% of our customers with our solution have never grown before.
Yep.
And the overwhelming majority of them are like 80% are doing it for medicinal purposes. And a huge chunk of that are retirees and baby boomers. It's medical. All right. And, we have case studies on this where people who are using cannabis for medicinal purposes as alternatives to opioids, deathly afraid of getting addicted to opioids and all that stuff. Talk to the doctor. We want cannabis instead. Doctor approves. They do it. They go, this works. Great. And while they're working, it's fine. But then they get to retirement and oh crap, I'm on a pension. I'm on a fixed income now. And that $500 a month at a dispensary for the two of us, a couple, and this is an actual, I'm riffing this off of an actual case study of one of our customers. It was a couple, and they were both using medicinal cannabis instead of opioids. And but then when they retired, they're like, $500 a month we're spending at a dispensary, and it's like that's $6,000 a year, and we're on a fixed income now. So they got our box, and they're growing it themselves now, and they're spending a couple of $100 a year. And it's the thing is that it's a fallacy, home grow versus. So if you made it illegal, they would just be suffering now because they can't afford it.
Right.
So it's not oh no, stop that. Make them buy at the dispensaries. Well, they're not going to buy at the dispensary either. Or they're not going to buy enough. They're going to have to scale back.
Again, you're just forcing people into the black market again, or the illicit market.
And that's what it is. It's not it doesn't affect the bottom line of the dispensaries because it's just pushing them either they're just not going to do it because they can't afford it, or they're going right back to the black market again.
Well, it's ridiculous. And there's a bill that's being passed out here, or it's up to be passed, that would allow for It's really designed to allow growers in very rural areas that don't have dispensaries to be able to actually sell at farmers markets. And I have been surprised at that there has not been pushback from the larger companies on it. And maybe it's because they're just not interested in those markets. But I think the reality is most places that do allow home grow, they limit it to 6 plants. I don't know many places that have more than that, if any. I don't know any off the top of my head. And that is just simply not enough to impact the market share of a large company.
Yeah, it's just not. And the reality is that...
and if anything, that's going to get me into growing. It's going to make me want to go to the dispensary or to the retail store to see what's on the market and how good my stuff compares to it. And, you're still going to buy something once in a while.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. And that's what I'm talking about, restaurants and
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I've been growing for 3 years myself. I'm a big flower guy. I love my flower. I grow my own flower. Okay. Have I bought anything from a dispensary in the last month? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. We actually sell a bundle with the butter brewer home infusion device. So you can grow your own, and we've done videos on it and stuff. So you can grow, and then you can use this it's like kind of like a fancy, very specialized crock pot kind of device.
Oh, nice.
That you throw your weed in, it automatically decarboxylates and infuses, does an amazing job. It does a better job than the old school by hand methods, like in the oven and all that stuff. And it's way faster. It's better and faster and easier. And then you can turn around, you can infuse butters and coconut oils or whatever, and you can make all these edibles and all that stuff. Myself personally, too lazy for that. I'm not doing it. We have lots of customers that love doing that. It's like, even like myself and Jennifer, like she loves cooking. She cooks every night. And our division of labor is I do all the dishes every night. I hate cooking. I'm actually good at it. I can cook. I'm good at it. I hate it. It's just not fun. That's a chore. For her, it's not a chore. She thought about, she's in education, but years and years and eons ago when she was in college and all that, she thought about doing cooking like as a career. And so she loves it. It's a hobby. She loves doing that. I'm like, knock yourself out. I don't. I'm not going to sit here and make edibles. I don't care. That's a chore. I'll just go to the store and buy them. So like edibles, vape carts, concentrates. I'm not doing rosin presses, and I grow my flower. I'll pack too much. That's the end of it. If I want finished manufactured products like edibles or vape carts or rosin or any of that stuff, I'm going to go to a dispensary.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not doing high volatile extraction to make your own concentrates and stuff at home. That's not going to happen.
Yeah,
but you've definitely made it to where, because I have grown at home, and it can be daunting for somebody to go and piece together everything they need. But as you've mentioned, and it's interesting that you call yours the armoire, because I actually years ago, I see it right there behind you. It is beautiful, because years ago I actually had an armoire that I converted to hold a giant mother plant at one time. And I was so proud of that armoire. But when I saw yours is obviously much nicer and well done. I mean, you've really simplified it to where, like you said, somebody who doesn't know a lot about growing can essentially, grow a little bit of medicine or, product at home for themselves for self-consumption. And they don't have to worry about, has it been properly tested? Has it done this? Has it done that?
Oh, yeah.
They know exactly how it's been grown.
Oh, yeah.
To me, that's the very definition of what safe access is actually all about.
Exactly. There's no pesticides. There's no mold. It's just clean, organic. The only thing that went into it was purified water, organic soil, and light. It's just as clean and pure as you can get. I get to grow the exact strains that I want, that I need for myself. Not just whatever the local dispensary happens to have, but I can get whatever I want. And when you talk about, like you said, the 6 plants and all that stuff, traditional photos that take longer, you have to grow more plants because it has to last you. Like if you're just doing 1 harvest or 2 harvests a year, like if it's indoor, you go in 5-6 months or whatever, you can do 2 cycles, right? You got to grow enough to hold you over for the next 6 months while you're growing more plants again, right? But what we're doing here with the Armoire is we're focusing on autoflowers. The autoflower genetics have come so far.
It has
so fast. Just in the last couple of years, get great stable genetics. I get like 30% THC strains. I mean, you can get just amazing. They've done a great job of honing in on how to get just the characteristics from the ruderalis to make it that autoflower, but inherit all the cannabinoid and terpene profile from the original, photoperiod plants and the original strain, Landrace strains and whatever. And that they're amazing. And that we can grow a plant, and we've got special between the hardware and our protocol. We got some special tactics and techniques and things that we use to get outsized results. We're not getting an ounce, we're getting like 4, 5, 6 ounces, whatever.
Oh, wow.
And then like 60 or 70 days. So this is a one plant solution. Now we fill that whole box with one big, huge plant, but It's one plant. You don't even need 6 or 12. I just grow one at a time, and it throws off out of one plant. I just harvested this one, April Fool's Day, April 1st, I harvested, this is gummy bears from Atlas Seeds. These are quart-sized jars. I got 6 of these out of my plant.
Oh, wow.
I got 6 of them. It smells awesome. I got 6 of these out of my plant. And then now I've got a new seed. It just started to sprout this morning. I can see it's kind of like the bend, it's just starting to pop up. So I got a new one going, and then I got one going in this one.
And so what is the growth cycle? What is the length of time? 60 to 90 days or something like that?
It depends on the genetics. I'd say most, like 60 or 70% of the auto strains they call them 60-day strains. To be 60 or 70. There's a little, it's nature. They're all a little different, whatever. You could be 55 days, you could be 65, whatever, somewhere in that range. But about 60-day strains. And then there's a chunk of 90-day strains. That's, it's probably like 70% of the autos are like 60-day strains, and then probably like slightly less than, maybe 65%, right? And then slightly less, like maybe 25% are 90-day strains. And then there's a small sliver, 5 or 10% of the market that are like 120-day strains. There's a few of those that run long. The big bulk, and I do, and the breeders will list that stuff. And what I do is I gravitate to it. I go for the 60 to 70-day strains.
Yeah.
I want to pop them fast, turn them, flip them. I don't want to, I like the shorter, quick, and it's diminishing returns. I find that the 90-day strains, it takes 50% longer than, 2 months versus 3 months. It takes 50% longer, but I'm not getting 50% more yield out of them. So it's like, just go for the shorter ones, get 4 or 5 ounces, sometimes 6, 7. I've gotten up to 7.8, up to half a pound, like in 60 days out of a plant. But I average around 4, 5, 6, 4 or 5, mostly. Like this one, I got 5 ounces. I got 5 ounces out of this.
And for most people, I mean, I know some people are heavier smokers than most, but if you're somebody that's growing and you're growing for your own self-consumption, like that's quite a bit. That'll last you until your next harvest, most likely. I mean, most
people go through like people are smoking consistent, like what, a half ounce a month or something like that, or maybe an ounce a month.
Yeah, maybe a half ounce. Yeah, a half ounce, maybe.
So I just got 5 ounces.
Yeah,
I got 5 ounces. I'm growing another plant now, so I smoke every night. I consider myself at this point a heavier smoker.
Sure.
I mean, I'll go through an ounce or 2. I'll probably have 3 left when my next plant's done.
Right.
I'm just going one at a time, and I never have a shortage. And now, like, I have 2 going. Now it's just an embarrassment of riches. And that's just, we do have some people that are growing in 2 box. They buy a second box and they're growing 2 different things, and I'm different cycles. For me, it's more like, I work for the company, so these are all test units, and I'm testing different things. And, so I got like the one in the cherry cabinet here in the middle is empty right now. I'm not growing in that one. But I've got a test unit prototype, the blonde wood behind me. I can show you if you want. I get a really nice plant going.
How difficult is the cleaning on those in between? Just wipe them out and good to go?
Yeah, I take a little hand vac, and then I just Clorox wipe it down, and I'm done. It takes me like 2 minutes. It's very simple. And this is basically water once a day. We recommend people do LST stress training at about three weeks. And we offer a concierge service. We literally will handhold you and teach you how to grow and walk you through the whole thing. When it comes time to LST, we're like, let's get on a Zoom video call. We'll walk you through it on video. We're like, all right, see that one over there right next to that? Yeah, right. Try that over here. We'll show you. Usually once we do it, we explain, we're educating while we do it. We're not just saying, do this, do this, do this. Okay, you're done. It's like, do this. Here's why. This is what we're trying to accomplish. And once you've done it, you go, oh, okay, that wasn't so hard. Yeah, now you know. And then now for the rest of your life, now you know how to do LSD. You know, I mean, it's just, so we teach people, we walk them through, we're here. It's different than this unit is handled very different than like tents where you're cobbling together and, you know, lights and tents and ventilation and all this stuff. And you're on your own. You come home from the hydro store, you're on your own, you know, and people are constantly posting in forums. Oh, my plant's drooping and it's yellowed and it's got this, and it's got that. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? You're not calling the tent company. They're like, we're not
dealing with
consultants, you know, that's not our job. But for us, it is. It's all part of the service. We have that concierge service. We make sure everyone's successful. You will be successful.
That's nice.
If you're not successful, it's because you haven't called us, and that's more on you. You know, we're here. We say it a million times. Our numbers everywhere, all over our website. It's in all the documentation. It's in the manual. It's call us. Please call us. You're not bothering us. It's what we want. You know. And so our customers, you know, water it once a day, take about 20 minutes to do LST about halfway through. Yeah. That's pretty much it. I mean, it's
it's a more simple process than it used to be, where you had to call about 8 different friends who had a little bit of knowledge, who had tried to grow before themselves, and try to piece together what to really do and what not to do.
There's so many variables. See, the thing is, there's normally when you so many variables. Oh, you don't have enough calcium. You have not enough magnesium. Too much nitrogen, phosphorus. You know, your pH of the water, pH of the soil, the light, just the temperatures, humidity, this, that, all these things. And it's overwhelming. And most people fail the first time. They get little Charlie Brown Christmas trees. They burn the plants, or they just have some like sickly little yellow thing that never goes anywhere. And blah, blah. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of problem. You're on your own. You're spending hours and hours researching, trying to figure things out. Because like your plant's a little yellow. Well, it could be because you've overwatered it. It could be because you've underwatered it. Those are the best. Because like, all right, well then which is it? You know, you've either overwatered it, underwatered it, or it doesn't have as a nitrogen deficiency, or it's got a, you know, it's like they're like every symptom has 4 different things it could possibly be, and they're all completely different. You know, and it's like, so it is complicated for us because it's a full kit. It's not like we're trying to support every random like tent of all different sizes, every light.
Right. You've got a controlled environment.
And then we also re-engineered our process for growing. We didn't just do it the traditional way. We kind of re-engineered and simplified, because we also know the whole environment and we know what we can get away with. We've been able to take shortcuts and do things, and we've set up a whole system, an ecosystem, where basically it turns into, just water it once a day. It's not a full-blown automated systems. We've said from day one, and we've been proven right so far, the full-blown automated systems just don't work. They just don't work. You can't automate nature. Okay.
Yeah. So the plants need a little love. They need to feel your energy.
They all do different things. I say all the time, I have 2 kids. They're twins born on the same day, the same, you know, they're from the same, they have the same DNA, right? From the same parents. They're twins. One is short and chunkier. One's tall and thin. One's athletic. One's not. They're different people. Plants are the same thing. Just because you get the same seeds, you can open seeds from the same mother. You get 3 seeds in a packet, and one of them will just do some weird thing. It'll grow taller than the others, or it's genetics. You can't just automate it. Sometimes they grow out funny. They do weird things or whatever. So our cannabis tech is it's a nurturing, a technology assisted nurturing system. So we've got all the tech and the systems and processes. But at the end of the day, you're putting eyes on the plant. You water it once a day. When you're watering it, it gives you a chance to futz it a little bit if you want, and we're done. But it's not just to set it and forget it and walk away.
Yeah, if you're not willing to at least do that, you just need to go to the store and buy it and not be a grower.
I mean, and there you go, have at it.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
How has the recent last couple years, and especially now with the supply chain issues, has any of that impacted your business? Yeah, you raise your eyes. I see it. Of course, it has.
It absolutely has. So we've had impacts, and it's this whole industry is maddening, right? In and of itself. And I tell people all the time. Starting and running a business, like a small business, is hard. Okay. Like if you have an entrepreneur, if you're a great bricklayer and now you're going to go off on your own and start your own bricklaying company, setting up the business, the regulations and all the licenses you need, and then hiring people and managing people and paying payroll and the taxes there's just so, and you got to get a credit card merchant account to take credit cards from your customers. And all the accounting and all the stuff. Running a small business is hard. It's not just, I'm just going to go out and lay bricks every day, but I'm doing it for myself and keeping all the money. It's hard. There's all this overhead and all these regulations. And there's always someone busting your chops over you didn't get this license or that license or whatever, and state things. So I have to deal with it every day. I get stuff like has nothing to do with me, nothing that we ever created, but comes at me. I get things like, I had one at the state level. The state was like, "Oh, you didn't file your taxes in 2014 and 15." I'm like, "We didn't exist in 2014, 15. Like, what are you talking about?" Look, and I have to show them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I see. Our incorporation date. This is the date we incorporated." And they're like, "Oh, okay, all right, I'll fix it in the system." But you just get sucked into this bureaucratic stuff that there's not even anything we've done in this industry. Being in cannabis, it's just all of that is your basic ante to play if you want to start a small business. In the cannabis industry, it's all that plus. It's just now, at least if you started a restaurant, you don't live in fear of walking in one day to open and finding out that you don't have a merchant account anymore. You can't, your POS register is turned off. Okay. Cannabis, yeah, you walk in, and it's happened to me. It's happened to me more than once where we just come in, it's a normal day, and all of a sudden you find out, like we were at one point, we were using EVO payments for our credit card processing on our website. And one day we get a shutdown notice on a Tuesday. I'll never forget this. On a Tuesday, I get a shutdown notice.
Keeping in mind, you're not even you're a company that doesn't even touch the plant, just for listeners. I mean, your business doesn't touch the plant at all in any way at any time.
Exactly. I'm not plant touching. I'm not actually a cannabis industry. This should be all non-issue. Everything I do is normal. Non-issue. Yeah. All 50 states. I sell blocks of wood, right? I sell little storage boxes and stuff, right? And I walk in one day on a Tuesday, and I know it was a Tuesday because I got a shutdown notice, and it said, "But we know it'll take you a little while to get a merchant account, so we're giving you till Friday." I'm like, "You gave me 3 days." It takes 2-3 weeks to get a merchant account. You have to go through all these applications, and then there's underwriting, and there's all this. It's almost like a mini version of getting a mortgage. I mean, now you have to submit your last three months of bank statements, the last 3 months of your prior merchant processing statements. They want to see chargebacks. They want to see history. They want to see, and there's all this just shit you have to do. And then it goes through underwriting and all that. It takes 2-3 weeks to get a merchant account. They were like, "Oh, we'll give you to the end of the week." You gave me 3 days. Okay. So I start scrambling. I call them up. I'm like, "What is this? Why? What did we do? Can I appeal this?" And they're like, "Oh, it has nothing to do with you." They shut off 3,000 merchants that day. 3,000 merchants. The reason was because that company, EVO Payments, I have no problem calling them out on this. EVO Payments. They one day they decided, the company, they want to sell. They want to sell to another big bank or whatever, right? They want to clean up. They don't want like any high risk merchant accounts or whatever. So anything tobacco related, anything, and they had adult novelties, tobacco, they had all these categories, and they just want to clean up and just
purged.
And they purged, literally shut off. It was over 3,000 something, 3,200, 3,400 merchants like that. You're shut off. You've done nothing wrong. Doesn't matter. You shut off. My whole website is dead. I'm like, I'm dead. I can't sell anything. I have, you're an e-com site. Guess what? You're not selling anything now. Okay. I scrambled. We were down for a week because now I had to put it into hyperdrive. They gave me 3 days. So I had up through till Friday. Of course, all our business happens over the weekend. So they shut me off on a Friday, where most of our business is Saturday and Sunday, Friday night, Saturday and Sunday. People get paid and then they go online, they shop at, this is personal stuff, not business.
Yeah.
They don't do it on a Wednesday in the middle of the day. So weekends now they got paid, and now they have leisure time over the weekend, and then they're buying smoking accessories and stuff. Right. So they shut me down on a Friday. And it took me a whole nother week. And then I finally got back up and running. About 3 or 4 weeks later, I get a call. Hi, this is Scott from EVO Payments. How are you? And I'm like, I've been better, but why? What's up? And he's like, well, hey, we saw that you used to be a customer. We want your business back.
Oh, the automated call.
No, it wasn't an automated call. It was a guy. There was Scott. And I talked to him, and I'm like, and I was pretty cranky. And I'm like, really? You want my business back? You're the ones that shut us off. I go, okay, yeah. They had gone through with their sale, and the new owners were like, no. We want these accounts. All these accounts got purged. See, what happened was, I guess what they were doing is they were trying to go through the sale, and they were negotiating. They had a couple of different buyers, and they were trying to keep all their stuff clean. They wanted, because they had different buyers. The one that bought, that ended up, they did the deal, consummated the deal. And then they're like, no, we want all this business back. I'm like, it's a little late. I am not with them anymore. I'm like, you screwed me. You threw me under the bus. Do you think I'm coming back? So first of all, and second of all, I've made other arrangements. Do you think I've been sitting around for the last month with no processing because maybe they'll call me back? No, I moved on.
Yeah. This is why people don't trust. I mean, no other business before they sell could get away with just burning some of its history of its client base in order to make that sell and get away with it in such a manner. I mean, it's why people don't trust the banks. It's why,
big corporate. Yeah. So, 3,400, I think, or something like that, 3,200 or 3,400 merchants just mercilessly just shut off, pull the rug out from under them. And I remember when I was applying, they're like, oh, we're all backed up. It's going to take, normally, I found one guy, we can normally do these in 3 to 5 days. We get, post haste, but it's like, we're all back, underwring's all backed up. There's been a flood of applications. Yeah. Because EVO, and they say we know what's going on in the industry. EVO payments just shut off 3,400 merchants. You have 3,400 merchants all scrambling. Oh my God, I need an account now. And they've done nothing wrong. Their processing history is fine. Ours was all clean. It wasn't about us.
Yeah.
But that's the stuff you face in this industry. If you're a restaurant, they're not like, oh, we don't want restaurants anymore. You know what I mean? That's not a thing. If you were a restaurant, you just sign up for the merchant account, and 20 years later, you don't have to worry about that. That's setup stuff. Yeah. For me, I've gone through it twice.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things I think where the industry has to find some balance is because the industry does face these kind of challenges, and the desire. And look, I'm from the culture. I want to find ways for boutique growers to survive in the industry and small time operators to survive in the industry. But I think we need to be realistic that it's very difficult for somebody that maybe has never owned a business before to come into this industry and maybe not even be that well capitalized and think that they're going to be able to successfully navigate all the challenges that are going to come their way.
Everybody, yeah. One of the things is with the early days of legalization, I've seen it macro and micro, where what you're talking about, that thinking of I'm going to open a pot shop and I'm going to make.
I mean, I would like to have my own license and have my own everything as well, but it's like millions and millions of dollars.
It takes millions of dollars. Even the smallest, just retail only, where you're not trying to do the cultivation and the grow and the full vertically integrated, but even just retail only still takes well north of $1 million.
$2 million minimum.
Yep. You have to do, there's the build out and there's one thing that people don't realize. There's build outs. There's just so much stuff you have to do, but also the licensing requirements are because they're so strict and it's so heavily they don't want this running amok. They know all right, let's go cautiously,
slow.
Stuff.
Yeah.
One of the things is location. You can't be within so many yards of a park or so many yards of a school or so many yards of this or that or that. So then it really limits the zoning of where you can actually go in a particular town. It sounds like, sure, you can put them here. Great. Except there's no place in town that actually meets the criteria, or the one that does but it's zoned residential only, or whatever, or it's zoned mixed use, residential, commercial. So if you had a little hair salon and you lived upstairs in a 2-family kind of thing, and the hair salon's downstairs, but you can't put a pot shop there. It has to be commercial, not hybrid, whatever. So you might have to petition the city to tweak the zoning. Like there's no reason this couldn't be zoned commercial, but you have to apply for that because it wasn't, and blah, blah, blah. And all that stuff you have to go through. And you have to get your location, apply for the zone, because you can't get your license. You have to show them exactly where you're going to be. And you can't show them exactly where you're going to be if it's not zoned right, if you haven't. So what's one of the things that the upshot of all this, and I've watched it over and over and over again, these new dispensaries opening with the same story of, so I had to hire people. I'm paying rent now. I'm paying all this stuff. I've been paying rent for 6 months and I still don't have my license, my occupancy license.
You may not even be the one selected. If they're doing 4 licenses for a town and there's 20 people that apply, guess what? The rest of those 20 have just invested a couple million, at least $1 million probably in that application process, and they're not going to win. No other business is asked to do this.
No other industry. Yeah, exactly. So and I watched it, there's a dispensary behind me, a few streets back behind me, that my office, that was I remember talking to the owner, we sell to the dispensaries, they sell our grinders and rolling trays and all that stuff. And I remember talking to him hey, when are you opening? When do you think you're opening? And he's like, well, we're all done, and I had to do training, and I have we're supposed to open Wednesday or whatever, but we didn't get on the city council docket. They bumped us. So now it's going to be, we're just waiting to get approval from the city to open. We don't have the final, town license. So we're just waiting on that. So we got bumped to next month. Well, we thought we were opening Wednesday. And then all of a sudden we were on the docket, but they didn't get to they didn't finish everything. And then they adjourned the meeting and they pushed the rest out to next month. So he goes, I've hired people. I'm paying salaries. I'm paying people to sit around. Now I got put off a month. I have another month of payroll times, 20 people. I got, whatever, $50,000 a month of payroll or whatever it is. I've got, I'm paying rent on the building. I'm paying all this stuff. And we just got pushed off again. And it's a whole nother month. I think, they were burning like 50 to 100 grand a month waiting to get on the docket.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And I also think a lot of city officials, one thing that I have a lot of conversation about that they don't fully grasp is that when they're looking at their ordinance creation and their zoning for their cities, and they're looking at those maps, they look at the zones, and then they have to really look at all what they are defining as sensitive uses, as well as how those sensitive uses are measured, and then obviously what the distances are. And then when you extrapolate and put all that into that map and you see what's left, and say there's 100 properties in your city maybe that qualify, that would be allowable, that are correctly zoned and have no buffer issues. But nevertheless, there might be only 20 of those that are owned by somebody that might even be willing to do business with it. And of those 20, there might only be 10 that are even actually available on the market, otherwise, or the rest being occupied by other businesses. And so a lot of times it even really puts a constraint on the real estate market, really inflating the numbers on what applicants are paying for real estate on leases, in particular during this waiting period time where it's the real estate. I mean, I've seen the real estate market jump many, many times over when they find out that they are a cannabis zoned property.
And we euphemistically call it the cannabis tax, right? In the industry, that you have a property, you want to put in a hair salon. You want to go buy a little building to put in a hair salon, and it's it's $150,000 building. You want to put in a dispensary. Now it's a $300,000 building. I'm like, it's the cannabis tax. Oh, you want to do that? Rents. Oh, you want to rent from me? Yeah. Oh, you're putting in a dispensary. Oh, it's going to be 10 grand a month. But the hair salon guy was paying $2. It's like everything is jacked.
This is a way I really think if we have more conversations about it within the industry, I feel like these are ways where we could actually tackle some of the things that are creating the barriers of entry to smaller people, to smaller operators. Like if we figure out a way to do this land use more intelligently, it could really lessen some barriers and make it to where maybe you don't have to have $2 or $3 million to get an application in and get going. That being said, I understand from a municipality's perspective why they would want to know exactly what property you're going to ahead of time as well. So again, it's I think finding balance somewhere in there in those discussions.
Absolutely. So there's a lot. The industry is invigorating, exciting. It's new. There's all this innovation. There's all this stuff going on, but it's also maddening as hell because everything is just more expensive. Everything is harder. Everything is, you have to, tongue in cheek, I have my Robichaud's laws, and Robichaud's third law is you have to do everything 2 and 3 times to accomplish anything. You can't just go do something. You have to do something, and then it's like, but it gets kicked back, and then you have to reapply. You have to do something. You have to go and do things like 3 times to get anything done.
Yep.
And it's exhausting, whereas other industries, it's just all rubber stamp. If you're opening a hair salon, I'm doing this, and I go, okay, great, boom, boom, yeah, here's your license, here you go. Like, wait a minute, cannabis. Well, you got to go get this, you got to go get that, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got, extra stuff. It's just everything's more difficult. Your bank accounts. You have a cannabis company, $100 a month. Free checking. But, $100 a month because you have a cannabis company. Just everything, the cannabis tax, everything is just ladled on.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, it's also, you got the little guy who wants to buy a building and for a dispensary, gets the right zoning and all that stuff, goes to the bank. The bank's like, you're putting a dispensary in? I can't do lending.
Right.
So then
everything's private funding at this point.
So then you got to go to all alternative lending sources. And then now you're not paying 3%, you're paying 7%.
Or you've got a new business partner.
Right, Vinny the Nose, your new business partner. It's like, good.
I was going to say you were talking earlier about the vape ban affecting your ability to ship there for a little while. What is the current status of shipping product across the states right now? I know that obviously you're not a plant touching business. None of your products are plant touching. But even here out in California, there's talk about interstate commerce. I was in a meeting the other day for the tri-state area that was talking about interstate commerce being mentioned. So I guess my question is twofold a little bit. One, have you heard anything about interstate commerce progress there? And two, what is the current status for like non-cannabis touching products to be shipped throughout the country?
Sure. Okay. So taking the plant stuff, plant touching interstate commerce, there's a lot of talk about that going on. And there is a lot of talk. I believe, and this is just my personal opinion, we're really far off on that. I think that is the least priority down at the bottom of the list of everything else, that you're not going to get interstate commerce going before legalization. Legalization's got to come first. And that goes back to everything else we talked about the politics and taking forever and all that stuff. So I think we have a lot of hurdles. I believe that it's kind of like, the analogy to the watch pot waiting to boil kind of thing, that in some respects, when you look backwards, you're like, wow, we've come so far, so fast. But on the other hand, when you're looking forward, it's like, this is taking forever, right? So there's a little bit of that, it's like Schrodinger's legalization, it's things are moving quick. If you look backwards, you're like, wow, we have 38 or states now that have some form of legal pot and blah, 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 and all the stuff has just been in the last 5 or 10 years. And so from a statistical analysis and all this stuff, like one of the fastest growing industries in modern history, blah, 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 backwards looking. But when you're looking forwards, it's because that backwards look does not really take into account. It does not account for the pain factor of the pain and what you went through and the hurdles you had to jump through and what the costs of that progress have been. But when you're looking forward, it's like, this is taking forever because you're baking in that, like the costs of like that continuing without legalization and all the, the hassles and the problems and the costs of that. And so I think that interstate commerce, just personally, unless there's something new that I am not aware of, some new breakthrough or something, but I really think that it will happen. The industry will mature. We will get legalization. If you just fast forward 10 years and then you turn around and look backwards, right. I think, 10 years, 15 years, whatever, I would be like, oh yeah, we got to legalization. And I think the best way, by the way, just without going down a rabbit hole, but a little tangent, I do think the best way of doing it is not trying to legalize and regulate the federal level. I think the best thing to do is just decriminalize it, take it off schedule, and just say, make it a state's issue and let the states handle it.
I would agree. And honestly, the conversations out here are very much centered, are starting to go in that direction where they think it's going to be a state's action if they can just get it decriminalized.
Right. Decriminalize, just have the feds take no position. It's just don't make it federally illegal. And just now you have your banking, you have your whatever, decriminalize it, take it off Schedule 1, and then leave it up to the individual states. And they want or they don't, or whatever they want to do, medicinal or rec or whatever. Let the states manage it. And then let the states have all the regulatory frameworks and all that, just like driver's licenses and, vehicle operation and things like that. It's not at a federal level. Feds don't have any regulations. All right, whatever. It's up to the states. You guys figure it out. Right.
Right.
And let the states figure out, let them do the licensing and the regulation and all that stuff. And so that's the best, fastest, easiest way to get it done. Don't try to create frameworks and regulations. Just be like, not my problem. Kick the can down the road to the states and let them figure it out. And most of the states already have figured it out or are in the process of, and they have systems and processes. And so let the feds just go, you guys figure it out. States like, okay, we got this. Thanks.
They would. Yeah.
So I think that'll all happen. And I think once that all happens and we have legalization, or at least not illegal anymore, we'll have interstate commerce and all that stuff. But right now, forward looking, there's like, 3 or 4 other prerequisites that have to fall first. I think interstate commerce, just personally, is a ways off.
I think it would be difficult for such new markets to entertain the thought of, I could see it happening here before the East Coast just because of the market maturation, but
potentially you're potentially right. I don't have an opinion on that. You could be right.
Yeah. Could go either way.
But now as far as us with ancillary products and accessories, and by the way, I always I made a pronouncement within our company, and I tried to push it out everywhere. Is that we call them ancillary products or smoking accessories? I don't say paraphernalia. Drug paraphernalia to me is heroin needles and
not good.
So it's accessories and ancillary products.
Rebranding.
Yeah, exactly. Just trying to be more accurate with it.
It's breaking that stereotype. It's just the same way that we were talking earlier, that people use cannabis for health and wellness more than, I know, admittedly, growing up when I was living in an area where it was illegal, I probably knew more stoners than I knew of people who used it for health and wellness. But in a legal market, the vast majority of people are not stoners. They are people that are professionals. Like you said, you work all day, you do your thing, but you use it for this aspect. Use it for this particular aspect of your lifestyle for health and wellness.
Oh, and so many people I know, autism, and just general, like ADHD and lots of anxiety, that it works better than, pharmaceuticals. They have all these other baggage of side effects and stuff, and that allows people to be functional. People that like have massive super anxiety, and then can microdose and manage. So it absolutely for us in the ancillary market. But I always make that little pitch that it's kind of like, we in the industry with cannabis, it's not marijuana, it's cannabis.
Exactly.
And so accessories are the same analogy.
I also try to I've even tried to go away from the word dispensary, just because if we want to normalize it to people, it's a retail store, just like any other retail store,
Right. Absolutely. So yeah, words matter kind of thing. It's all I was saying. But to answer your question, there's no issue shipping across state lines, right? It's just hard goods. It's just, it's like anything else. Like you can buy stuff on Amazon, whatever, it's the issue is specifically vape. You can't. It's illegal to mail. You can't mail. And UPS and FedEx got on board and backed it. So it's like you can't even go like a UPS or a FedEx. So there's literally like no good way to ship. Certainly not to consumer. You can do your own private like LTL freight and have your own truck, private carrier on a truck. Bring like vapes like in volume.
Right.
But that only works if you're doing in volume to a retail location. You're just selling them out of the retail location.
Right.
But for someone like us, where we're distributing, we're shipping them to stores and stuff that's fine to get a pallet load or whatever, in via an LTL truck or whatever to our warehouse. But getting those out to the stores, unless you're doing personal private deliveries, but we ship all over the country,
Right.
And then if it's going to end users, like we have a website, we have a retail website. We don't compete with our wholesale customers. We're always at maximum MSRP plus shipping, so we're always going to be more expensive. But like when we have people that are in markets where we just don't have stores that carry our products and, well, where can I find this in Omaha, Nebraska? I'm like, we don't have a store in Omaha, Nebraska. So, we have our website. So people can come to our website and buy stuff. If we're shipping to consumer, that's US mail. How am I can't ship a vape. So for us, it's really hurt us because it's hurt our sales because I had my vape products were my most popular item.
Now, is this just the cart that's going to contain the oil, or is this the battery as well?
Everything, anything related to vaping. So it's the empty carts, it's the batteries, it's coils, it's anything related to vaping devices. It's vaping devices and related accessories and components and parts. It's everything. So a battery, a vape card, magnetic adapters that just go to it. Like it's just a magnetic piece of metal, like everything related to all that. And you can't ship them. You can't ship them legally. So we've stopped. When we ran out of inventory and I haven't been making more. I stopped. And it was one of our best sellers. And like I talked about that drafting, so they come to our website to buy the vape and then they'll grab a bong while they're there, or they'll grab a sifter box or a grinder too, or other ancillary accessories like, they get the vape, but they'll also get extra cartridges or whatever. And well, now they're not coming for the vapes. They're not buying the other, it's like, it's hurt our sales. And I don't see any good reason for it. I think that the reasons for clamping down were jewel pods to teenagers and nicotine.
Yeah. But the statistics are heavily showing that if where legal access is, there is a fairly significant decrease in youth use. Because, and I know that talking with, law enforcement in different municipalities, the data is still coming in because it's such a new industry, but for many of them, they do feel like it's not the answer by itself, but having legal access in a community through regulated stores or delivery or whatever it might be is a way to help shrink that illicit market. Because ultimately, if you give people, and again, it comes down to taxes as well, because you have to somewhat compete with the illicit market. If you're charging $30 more for a jar for an eighth of flour than the street dealer is, a lot of people are still going to go to that street dealer. But if we can figure out a way to make it affordable, most people are going to make that safer choice and they're going to go to that market, and they're going to eventually shrink the market base or the consumer base of those illicit operators and those, street dealers, so to speak.
Right. The street dealers they just move, they give it up and move on to other things, and that market shrinks, and then the kids don't have as easy access. The other thing is you get more education around it. Yep. And the other thing too is there's also it's more of a psychological thing, but there's that sort of like rebel factor. It's just like if you look at the demographics of Facebook right now, Facebook started off, it was a college campus, right? Thing.
Yep.
And it was,
I can remember when Facebook, you had to have a college email address to even have an account.
Right. Exactly. Right. And it was all the college kids were on there and everything and blah, 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 blah. Today, kids don't want to be caught dead. It's all parents on it now. It's skewed. It's all old generation. And that's why like Instagram and the other things have exploded, and Facebook is becoming a dinosaur now because all the kids flock to TikTok and Instagram and other things. They get that high engagement, high energy usage from the youth, that don't have full-time jobs and have more times on their hands and are posting dribble and whatever, and are doing TikToks and Instagram and things like that. And Facebook has become the parents, and the kids don't want to be on it because mom and dad are on that now. And, and now Facebook is all skewed older. The kids don't want to be on it. They don't want to be on it. There aren't kids on it. When I go on Facebook, they're all people my age. Like my kids don't use it.
Yeah.
My kids are 23 now. Actually, today's their birthday. I have twins. They're 23.
Oh, wow.
And they're not on Facebook. They have an account. They don't use it. They're on Instagram. They're on Snapchat. They're on TikTok or whatever. But they're not on Facebook.
I think that's why we see Facebook trying to pivot a bit, though. Trying to pivot to Meta. They've obviously bought Instagram. So I mean, they're
right, and because they see that they're not stupid, and they see the demographics, the shifting demographics and all that stuff. My point is, I think that's analogous to this market. It's like when you have pot shops everywhere, and there's education and all this stuff, and mom and dad are smoking and buying it legal and all that stuff. It's not cool and rebellious anymore.
Right. That's true. Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good point.
And I think what you find is with the legal market, because what you said, it squashes the illicit market, which is what the kids are getting at. If the illicit market shrinks and goes away or radically shrinks, and all you have is the legal market now, kids can't buy in stores. So now they lose access to it, first of all. And then second of all, it's also just not cool anymore because mom and dad smoke and whatever. Now it's like, okay, whatever. It's not as cool anymore. It's not all rebellious.
That's the cure to anything with kids. Just have the parents adopt it.
Right. And then it's like, oh, okay, whatever, So that's what I'm saying. Just like Facebook, the parents are all over Facebook now, and kids are like, all right, we move on. Yeah. So I don't know. But yeah, for us, it's the big problem we have. We have no problem shipping across state lines with any of the accessories except vape, and we just stopped selling them. Like, how am I supposed to do this? And it kills me. Like, I keep thinking about it. I keep ruminating on it. It's like, maybe not daily, but certainly weekly. Like, should we just keep making vapes and like just do like, try to do just more like private LTL shipments to the stores? I'm like, but there's just like, I don't want to be making all this hardware and then I'm sitting on it because my channels for moving it are closed, We can't sell it on the website. We can't, I'm like, I could sell it wholesale to stores, but then it limits only high volume that want to do private, like LTL shipments and stuff. Like the little guys, like we have a lot of them stores. It's like, all right, give me 2 of this, 4 of that. They might cobble together a decent order, but it's like, give me 2 of these, 4 of that, and we'll just ship. And then it's just a UPS or a US mail. I can't have vapes in there.
Right.
And the penalties and the fines are such that I just don't want to go there. I don't want to say, so what, just ship them and whatever. And because all it takes is one issue. And the penalties are I can't afford get slapped with $1 million fines and stuff like that, per incident and all this stuff. Like, oh, you shipped 1,000, 10,000, whatever, babe, and it's $1,000 per incident. Here's your $1 million fine. It put me out of business.
Yeah, it's not worth it. Do you ever, being a somewhat heavily online business to a large extent, do you have issues with marketing your company or the products?
Absolutely. As I'm telling you, everything in this business is harder.
For sure.
All day long, and what really kills me is everybody finds spam emails. Like, everybody finds spam annoying. Okay. Everybody finds ads annoying. Everybody finds spam annoying. Take it to the next level where it's like insult to injury, rubbing salt in the wound. Imagine getting all this spam and you couldn't even respond to it anyway because you can't do it. Okay. All day long. And you've probably seen it if you use Facebook at all. You see like everybody in the world is selling some kind of course. They all have like selling a course and all that. Right? Well, the other thing is, if you do anything in business, you're hammered on Facebook and in emails and all the stuff with like, let us help you improve your Facebook ads or your Google ads. You want to sell more? We're like, I must get 20, and I am not exaggerating, at least 20 a day, every single day, of all these just random people just spam emailing me about like, let us help you with your Facebook ads. Let us help you with your Google ads. let me help you with the fact that I can't run Facebook or Google Ads.
None.
Those are the two primary. Like if you ask anybody, digital marketing today, you're going to market online, e-commerce store. What are your biggest ad opportunities? Facebook and Google are your two biggest by far. They're like 90% of your market is those two. Neither one of them will do anything related. And I'm not plant touching. I'm not selling weed. I'm not a dispensary. But it doesn't matter. I can't sell it. Just like Amazon. Amazon has delisted almost all of our products by this point. Like we were selling shitloads of pipes, and it without fail, like they have some kind of intuitive radar that is always when I restock. The day I got 10,000 lipstick pipes in, they shut off my lipstick pipe. and I'm selling like 1,000 a week on Amazon. 1,000 a week.
Wow.
Okay, and I'm selling 3, not 1,000, but just 3. I'm selling 3 a month on my website. I was like, it's all I'm buying this for Amazon. This is an Amazon like SKU. Okay.
Right.
We had certain SKUs that they're Amazon SKUs. Like they don't sell big at stores. They don't sell big in retail. They don't sell it, but there's just demand on Amazon. And it's an Amazon SKU. And it's weird. We have some things that don't sell on Amazon. We sell tons of them elsewhere and vice versa. So we have this Amazon only kind of SKU. And the day I reordered, I get 10,000 in, they shut off the listing. That was 5 years ago. And I still have lipstick pipes in my warehouse. It's like we're slowly selling them down, but it's like, all right, 10,000. Gee, I've only got 9,000 left now. It's like I had, and they did it with one product after another it's always the day I get a whole resupply in, then they shut us off. We've gotten to the point where 90% of our catalog is shut off, and it doesn't make sense. And it's just because, our offline market, we don't drive any traffic into Amazon. We're not marketing weed stuff and driving it in. We do no traffic into Amazon. We just sell with their existing demand. Okay.
Right.
They shut off our syringes. We sell blunt tip syringes for just filling oil cartridges. Right. That's why our people would buy them. However, it's a medical device. It's a medical syringe. There are thousands of them being sold on Amazon in the medical category, the exact same products. Okay. The whole, like if it's, what is it? I forget the name, Kimberly something, whatever. The company that does all the medical supply stuff. I forget their name now, but like if they can sell the same syringe because they're a medical device company. Mm-hmm. They can sell that same syringe. So a customer goes and searches for syringe, can buy that, get it, and then use it to fill their oils, right? But because we sell smoke shop accessories, if I sell that same syringe, it's gotten shut off. Oh, this is this is for weed. I'm like, just because of who I am as a company. But on Amazon, a customer searches, finds a device, and buys it. They're not coming to me. They're not driven by me. They have not what I sell to or who I sell to. What does that have to do with the price of tea in China? Has absolutely nothing to do with anything. But they're like, oh, you sell that stuff? So they shut it off. The same thing that's already being sold. I've had Amazon, we were selling grinders. Amazon started selling the same grinder.
Amazon does this to literally everybody.
Predatory. I hate it.
It's the worst because it's everybody's small business that's growing wants to get on Amazon to sell more volume. And as soon as you get on Amazon, if you have an item that's hitting, they will copy it and just make their own version of it and then put it above you in every single page.
I mean, that literally actually, once they open up
it's the same thing China does to us.
it should be illegal. It really should.
It should be.
It's insider trading. Like what they're doing is like they bring you in and then they screw you over because they have access to all the data. They can watch all the data and they go, oh, this is selling really well. Then they introduce their own. They kill all my sales. And then insult to injury, my grinder gets delisted. They're like, oh, this is drug paraphernalia. I'm like, you're selling, like this was one, we don't do this anymore, but way back when, like I told you, we started with slingshot rubber chickens and things like that.
Right.
So I had like our own grinders that we designed and our own brand and stuff. But then I was also selling some just novelty grinders that we were just buying and reselling. They weren't ours. We don't have those anymore. Now everything, we're a brand, we've evolved, we're a brand, everything's ours. But back in the day, we had in the transitory phase, we had our own branded products, but then we're still just reselling other things that are just popular and whatever. So we were selling a grinder and they saw it. They stepped in. They started selling it. Then they shut my listing off. They said, "Oh, this is drug paraphernalia." I'm like, "You're selling it."
The irony of all this is that it's, from what I've been reading, is that I understand Amazon and Bezos are now like pushing for legislation to be able to sell cannabis on Amazon. I mean, that's the irony of it, is that everybody's against it until they can make their money on it, and then they're all for it. And that's the frustrating part, which is what really concerns me in the long run, is the way the industry is developing. You know, again, it's like we've talked, it is about finding a balance. It can't stay purely cultural the way it always has been in the shadows, but we also, you know, I think a lot of people are concerned about it just being taken over by corporate greed and big companies as well.
Right, absolutely, and there's going to be consolidation. That's going to happen. If you look at even in the software game, Microsoft has, because of their cash cow with MS-DOS back in the day, they did a licensing deal. Their whole launch was because they did the licensing deal with IBM. They got $1 a unit royalties. IBM signed off on that because IBM had been in a history of putting out models and sunsetting them. They figured the IBM PC was like a 3 to 5 year thing. They come out with some other models. So like they obsolete things, come out with something new. You have System 360. Oh, now we have the AS400. Oh, now we have, and they were like, this is a 3 to 5 year cycle. We're going to sell a handful of these things. They figured they'd probably sell, 50,000 or something or whatever. And it's like, sure, we'll give you $1 a piece, whatever, fine. But then the whole PC clone, because it was a clone, off the shelf parts, and then you had Dell building them in his dorm room and all that. The whole industry exploded. Next thing you know, there's millions and millions and millions and hundreds of millions of these things being sold, and they're getting $1 a piece. And they just had this cash cow flooding in, millions of units being sold, and they're getting $1 on every one. Now, all of a sudden, it's really not hard to be successful when you have people just throwing money at your feet on a licensing deal that you did. It's not about what we're doing today. It's about just all the people throwing money at you, and they were 9 people, 10 people, wow, and you have millions of dollars coming in. So, things like, and I always said it, I made my living programming on Microsoft platforms and Microsoft software, but I had no illusions. I mean, it was like Microsoft really never came out with anything that was best of breed. I mean, the original DOS, Bill Gates bought and resold it to them, right? He
basically has copied most things, hasn't he? He's gotten it from other people have developed, and he's acquired it.
Microsoft Excel, Lotus 1-2-3, VisiCalc first, and then Lotus 1-2-3 owned the market for spreadsheets. They owned the market. They were the biggest, the best. And when Excel came out, Excel 1.0, Excel was garbage. It was absolutely utter garbage. When you have all this DOS money royalty money being thrown at your feet, whatever, so they just stick to it. And then Excel, whatever the versions were, I don't know, 1.5, then 2, and then this, and then eventually you get to version, 4, 5, and then it's like, hey, all right, this is a decent product, becoming usable. Windows 1.0 was not even usable. Windows 2.0 was complete garbage, not usable. Windows 3.0 was the first one that was like, all right, this is a tinker toy, but it actually kind of works. It's kind of interesting. And then 3.1 was the first one. Was like, okay, wait a second. This is starting to mature now. This is, and then from there it grew. Microsoft Word. Oh my God. I think until Word 6, it was complete and utter garbage. WordPerfect owned the industry. Yeah, but they can just keep, they didn't come up with anything. WordPerfect was the best word processor out in the market. Lotus 1-2-3 was the best spreadsheet. Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They weren't first with this stuff. They weren't best with the stuff. And most of their products were absolute utter garbage, but they just have so much money thrown at them. They didn't need to be successful, and they'll just keep improving. And they use the dollars for marketing might and out-marketed everybody. And eventually took over the market. And then WordPerfect goes away. Lotus 1-2-3 goes away because they don't have the cash cow of they're a one product. Lotus 1-2-3 had 1-2-3. They keep and stuff, but I mean, WordPerfect was WordPerfect Corp. They had WordPerfect. That's what they got. Microsoft had this royalty money. Just they can't lose, right?
Yeah.
So eventually these corporations have they grow, and they take over. So you're gonna have that consolidation. And what I'm hoping for is that it takes long enough that the little guys have enough of a running start to get their shops up and running, make some money, do their thing. And then maybe eventually they'll sell out there's going to be consolidation and they're going to come along, they're going to buy them out. It's happening in the hydro store market. You see like Grow Generations coming around, they're buying all the little mom and pop hydro stores, So hopefully those guys launched their stores, made some money, and then got to sell the Grow Generation and get to sell out and cash out and make some bucks. And I'm hoping the dispensaries will make a good, these little guys can make some money, make some good cash, do their thing. And then maybe eventually they'll sell out and become part of the chain, but they'll be the next, Curaleaf or whatever, or whatever, True Leaf and all those guys. But it's going to come. It will, unfortunately. Consolidation is going to happen.
Yeah, it's a natural evolution of any market, maturation, for sure. Well, I know we're kind of approaching our time here today, so I've kept you for a pretty good clip here this morning. I greatly appreciate it. Before we wrap up, please share with everybody where they can find more information about the Armoire. And by the way, like from somebody who has grown and piecemealed things together years ago to do a closet grow that spilled out into an extra bedroom. This is like the nicest, like self-contained grow, that I've just about ever seen for a home.
I'll give you the quick peek as we wrap up here. This is the inside. So it just looks like a cabinet on the outside. It's totally discreet. I have people come into my house all the time. If I don't know how they feel about cannabis, I don't say a word. They have no idea what this is. Look, that's why we call it the Armoire, because it looks like an old armoire. But inside, we've got the big external fans. We've got the carbon scrubbers, so there's no smell. We've got the digital hygrometer, humidity, temperature readouts. It's fan control. You control the fan speeds up and down. We've got our own proprietary light, so it comes with the light at the internal fans. And see, I just got bucket of dirt, it looks like right now, but just slightly, I can see, if you look really close, you can just see the sprout is just starting to pop up through the dirt now. So that's been about 2-3 days. I germinate right in the pot. That's usually what we recommend. And but like I said, you close it up and whoop, it's just the Armoire, and then I'll show you what I got going on over in this one. This one's at about, maybe 3 or 4 weeks. And I got a nice little
nice.
That's a magic melon. So, and now the magic melon, I have basically, I spend about 15 seconds a day just dumping water into it. Right. I water it once a day. Mm-hmm. And a few days ago, when I hit 3 weeks, like around 21, 22 days, I did LST, low stress training. So I took the plant out of the box and just stuck in there. I spent about 15 minutes and put them in there, open up the plant and tie it down and stuff to let more light in, let new tops and all that stuff. You get bigger yields. So I spent about 15 minutes doing low stress training, and then back to just my 15-second regimen of pour my water in and call it a day, go to work.
Any nutrients or anything do you mix with your water, or does that have a separate feed system in the box?
That's all part of our protocol and some of our secret sauce and all that stuff. Okay. But for the end customer, you don't fuck with nutrients. We get that sometimes. Like, what do I need to buy from them? Nothing.
Yeah, that's usually what causes people a lot of problems, because, like you said, they'll not give enough, they'll overdo it and burn their plants. So
burn the plants, yeah.
That is awesome that's built into the system.
So you don't have to worry about any of that. You don't have to worry about nutrients. It's literally water it once a day, and then, like I said, I get I got 6 of these. Usually, I get one when it's all trimmed and dried. It's 1 ounce in a big quart-sized jar, and I got 5. Mine went to 6. It was a little fluffy, and I spread it out a little bit. I measured it all out, but I got 6 of those full jars out of that one.
Nice. Well, thanks again for chatting with me. I guess for information, people should just go to greengoddesssupply.com.
Yep. www.greengoddesssupply.com. There's 3 S's in a row, because you got 2 S's for goddess and then another one for supply. So it looks a little weird when you're typing it out, but yeah, you have 3 S's in a row. But yeah, go to greengoddesssupply.com. You can see all of the accessories, the products, the sifter boxes and the bongs and the pipes and dabbers and quartz nails, everything. And then, of course, there's a whole section just for the Armoire, all about it.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much.
Now,
go ahead.
I said, and they're in stock and shipping now.
Awesome. No shipping problems with those for sure. Well, thanks again for chatting with me. I really appreciate it. It's been a great conversation. And for anybody that's interested, man, help us spread this home grow movement. It's something that needs to be done. I kind of look at it like it's a God-given right if you believe in that sort of thing, or maybe that's just a term that can be used. But I do sort of feel like, it's your right. If you want to grow a plant in your backyard for just you, you're not harming anybody, man. Just let them do their thing.
Exactly. We got to protect home grow. And like I said, we've gotten really passionate about this. Like the whole company, our whole focus now, and we've been doing this now 7 years. So the evolution where we did, as I told you, we tripped into it accidentally. But then once we wait a second, what? And we started looking at it, analyzing, and got deeper and deeper and deeper. And we grew this really deep passion for, especially once we brought out the armoire. It's all patented. We're winning awards on this thing now and everything else. It just works, it just works. And we've got we're pushing 600 customers now, growing in this thing and growing through multiple cycles and all that stuff. And got a whole Facebook group for our customers. We're all posting pictures of their plants and talking. Got about 400 people just in the Facebook group that are actual Armoire owners and growing and all that, and building the community and everything. And so we are just all in on home grow. It's our whole, our mission as a company is empowering everybody and anybody to grow their own at home quickly, easily, discreetly, and inexpensively. Boom.
I love it. Thank you so much, Eric. It's been awesome. Thank you so much.
Same here. A pleasure.